Pat, did you get a lollipop with that haircut?
Oh, it's still not funny.
It's funny if you could see that haircut. Showtime. Welcome to Hey, did you ever see that movie? I'm your host, Des, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Dylan.
No, it was a lease. How could it explode? It didn't even have any fuel in it.
It had a propane tank in it. And joining us again, the podcaster with a fully packed bong and a really tight haircut, Pat.
It's a baby gun. It allows you to shoot it while you're crying.
Okay, so was it in the movie or not?
It was not. I checked the trailer through YouTube, and it takes place just before he hands him the gun, when Stu grabs it with his thumb and his forefinger.
Right.
You can see this, they're standing in the same places.
Yeah.
The funniest line in the movie, and it was cut.
Yeah, I was looking for it, and I didn't see it. I was like, maybe I watched a different version. Boo, should have left it. Okay.
Yeah, well, obviously someone had a problem with referencing a gun and a baby in the same sentence, and oh, God forbid.
I mean, a gun and a baby. What could go wrong? Okay.
Exactly.
This week, we will be discussing the 2019 comedy Stuber, written by Tripper Clancy, directed by Michael Dowse, starring David Bautista, Kamal Nanjiani. As always, this podcast will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie,
not gonna be in this movie.
not gonna work here anymore. Anyway, go watch it, then come back and listen to the podcast. Yeah, butchered that name. My bad.
Oh, that was fully expected. Nobody listening to this podcast would expect you to get that name right.
Let's see. Let's try it again. His name is Kamal
Jesus.
Nanjiani. Kumal Nanjiani. Pretty
I
good.
think it's Kumail because it's got an I. It's not Kumal because there's an I in there.
What?
Nanjiani. Yeah.
Kumar goes to White Castle.
It's not Harold and Kumar.
Okay. Let's do a couple of facts on this one if we have any. I've got one that I thought was kind of interesting. Kumal Nanjiani and Dave Bautista are actually best friends in real life. So there you go. Pretty interesting.
All right.
Pat, you got anything on this?
There were two actors in this movie that were in two movies from Marvel.
That is correct.
Yes, that's
sir.
correct. And also, so I looked it up because I was like, oh, Batista must have gotten her the role. Like, I figured that was just what happened.
Right.
Not so. She got the role completely on her own and later on said to him, hey, I'm going to be in a movie you're in. And he was like, you are? He had no idea. But they're very good friends and they spend time together outside of working on movies.
They're obviously super close friends if she didn't even shoot him a call like, I'm in the movie you're in.
Well, I think it's quite different when you're working those kind of jobs. So
yeah, if I hadn't seen her name in the list of actors, I never would have realized it's the same girl that plays Nebula.
Yeah, that's her.
Makeup just totally conceals her identity.
Yeah, well, I know her from Doctor Who, and she just looks like herself in Doctor Who, and I knew her from Doctor Who well before the Marvel movies, so I knew who she was immediately.
Okay. With a box office budget of $18 million and a box office gross of $32 million, this was considered a box office success. Okay, let's do a quick Fast Five, and then we will get into this thing. Today's Fast Five is going to be classic characters. So I am going to give you two classic characters by one actor, and you're going to tell me which character is better. Okay, here we go. Number one, the actor is Bill Murray. The two characters are Peter Venkman or John Winger. So that's Peter Venkman, Ghostbusters, or John Winger from Stripes. Pat, which character is better in your opinion?
That is a tough one. I like them both, but I'm definitely going to have to go with Peter Venkman.
And Lynn.
I am Team Venkman.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
correct answer is John Winger.
Of course it is.
Great character,
Wow.
man.
How
Dude.
could I not know that was not the
No,
right
no.
answer?
As much as I love Peter Venkman, John Winger is just such a lovable loser. And the Venkman character goes a little over the top where the Winger character is just like, it's just great. They're both great characters, but the correct answer is John Winger because I said so.
But there's no kiss.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of kisses and stripes. Number 2, the actor is Eddie Murphy. And the roles are Billy Ray Valentine. That would be from Trading Places, or Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop. Pat, which character is better?
Oh, that's easy. It's Axel.
And Lynn.
Do, 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 do.
And the correct answer is Axel Foley. What a great
Wow, we
hero.
got it right, Delaney.
Yeah,
you
you
got
guys-
it right.
You guys got that
Holy
one right.
shit.
Good for you. Okay, number 3, the actor is Chevy Chase. And the two characters are either Erwin Fletcher from Fletch or Clark W. Griswold from Vacation. Pat, which character is better?
I'm going with Fletch, even though I know
And-
that's not the right answer.
Lynn, which one is better?
Yeah, Clark Griswold is a superior character.
Clark Griswold is the crown jewel in Chevy Chase's crown. The correct answer is Clark W. Griswold. Number 4, the actor is Sigourney Weaver. The two characters are Gwen DeMarco from Galaxy Quest or Ellen Ripley from Alien. Pat, which one's better?
There's no comparison. It's Ripley.
And Lynn.
Ellen Ripley would smack Gwen DeMarco across the face.
The correct answer is Gwen DeMarco because she
No,
has
it's
gigantic
not.
she has gigantic boobs in Galaxy Quest.
Oh my
They're
god.
fake. They're fake. Doesn't
They're-
count.
Oh, it counts. Okay. Number 5. The actor is Dan Aykroyd. And the two characters are Captain Vic from Neighbors or Arston Milbarge from Spies Like Us. Pat, which one is better?
I'm going to go with Vic.
And Lynn.
Milbarge.
Come on, you fucking Neighbors hater. The correct answer is Captain Vic because it's one of Dan Aykroyd's best characters of all times and one of the greatest dark comedies ever written and ever filmed. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's called Neighbors. It stars Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and it's actually the number 1 movie on the Hey Did You Ever See That Movie
No,
chart
it's not.
with a
The
perfect 5.
If you flip it upside down and maybe it's the number 1 movie.
Okay.
The secret word is kickback.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So there you go. Fast 5. In the bag. In the can. Let's do a little synopsis. I will give you that, and then we will break into this action comedy. A detective recruits his Uber driver into an unexpected night of adventure and murder. There you go.
Wow, you really dug deep for that one.
Yeah, that
I-
was
and I-
extensive.
And I actually added the murder off the hip, so it's shorter than that. Okay,
All right, let's get into it.
let's do it.
All right. Detective Vic Manning and Sarah Morris arrive at a hotel to catch a notorious drug lord, How do you pronounce it? Is it Tejio? I don't know. I don't want to
Tejejo.
pronounce it. Tejejo? Okay. Tejejo
Tejo.
gets Tejo.
Taquitos.
Tejo.
Taquitos.
Taquitos. I love
No.
taquitos.
All right.
They're good, but that's not it.
They're good.
Tejo gets the drop on them and starts to fight Vic before running away. The detectives chase Tejo out of the hotel and into the streets. Morris gets close enough to catch him, but they fight for her gun, and Tejo ends up shooting Morris in the abdomen. The crook gets away as Vic rushes to his partner's side to save her, but she soon dies. So I'm going to pause here, even though that's just a very quick setup, because you get the setup of Vic with his glasses being the premise of the whole movie, essentially.
Yes.
If he loses his glasses, he's useless. And of course, like we were talking about the cameo by Karen Gillan, I liked that because immediately I was like all excited that she was in the movie, and then she turned around and she got killed.
Shortest role in your career.
Yeah. So, Des, what did you think of that opening?
All right. So right off the bat, I really love this opening shot of the city at night. It just looks great. And a lot of my favorite, comedy action movies have this shot in them. I mean, it's standard. So I have questions. So this hotel desk worker that is going to tip off to Heiho that the cops are coming. So at first, my thought was, why would she get involved? Like, why would she try to get involved in a police investigation? And then I thought, maybe she's scared. Maybe she knows who Tejeo is. And, she's afraid that he would hold her partially responsible for not tipping him off that the cops were coming up to the room. But that was one of my questions that I had. And then we get this fight scene between Vic and Tejeo. And what I really liked about this fight scene that you miss in some movies is that both of these guys can really fight. I mean, Dave Bautista, he actually fought, I mean, I think only one time, like in the UFC or MMA. But I mean, this guy can really fight. And obviously, this actor that played Tejeo is, a martial arts expert. So this fight scene, it looked great. His partner, she also did a really great job of looking like she knew how to fight. She looked like a total badass. We get some great scenes. Tejeo dropping down from level to level by his hands catching every balcony. I thought that was great. And I thought it was really great when fucking Vic drops the fucking food cart on him. We get some great shots here. And as far as the glasses go, so if you're a cop like Vic that's doing this type of police work, like you got to figure this guy's like seen a lot of action. I mean, at the and you're literally blind. Like without your glasses, you're fucking blind. Like at the very least, you got to get one of those granny neck fucking things to hold the glasses on, right? And if at the very best, you got to be getting contact lenses, right? And then I mean, if you want to just go super cheap, just have an extra pair of glasses in your pocket. I mean, there's some bad choices being made by Vic here, but what I did appreciate is that, we'll get into it, how he's a great shot with his glasses, bad shot without his glasses. And eventually this is going to, make him start thinking about LASIK. So I get it, but it just feels like, come on, man. If someone just slapped the glasses off your face and you're completely helpless, you got to have a backup plan. Pat, what'd you think of these opening scenes?
Yeah, I have to agree. When he loses his glasses and you then realize that he's absolutely helpless without them, my very first thought was, he's not a uniformed cop. He's a detective. Why isn't he wearing contacts? That was the only thing that went through my head. When he was getting his ass kicked by Tejo, I'm like, he can't see. He's going to get his ass whooped. Why is he wearing glasses? That makes no sense to me. But it did provide for a very good fight. And when Vic dropped that trolley off the damn balcony right onto Tejo's head, they had to do it for the story, but there's no fucking way someone's getting up after one, making the fall, and two, getting hit in the head by that trolley. Because that thing's going to give him a concussion before it even hits the ground. But It was a great scene, so you got to let it go.
Well, something you said raises another question. So these are detectives. Why are they wearing fucking police vests and stuff? Like, why not go up to that room in undercover? You could have been hotel workers. You could have just been in suits and just knocked on the door and said, hey, we work for the hotel. We want to comp you, whatever it is. Like,
I got one better than that.
Go ahead.
Why do you even bother? Well, first off, the reason she calls the penthouse, she's on the payroll.
Right.
So that explains that. But if you know where this guy is, why do you even go to the desk? Why don't you just go right to the elevator? Whoever's at the desk has no fucking idea why you're there.
Right.
She might make the call, she might not, but you're asking for the guy and then telling her, no, you can't call him. We want it to be a surprise. You had to know as soon as they walked away, she was fucking calling him. Of course she was going to call him.
Well, let's call a spade a spade. This is not a deep cop movie, okay?
Not at all. You're right.
Yeah, this is not Heat. Don't start.
And I'm beginning to sound like you tearing down a movie that is a movie. I mean, you need it for the storyline.
Yeah.
This is a comedy first. All right.
So I also wanted to just mention, because you mentioned that Dave Bautista can fight.
Oh, yeah.
He is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's also trained in Muay Thai and a Filipino martial art called Kali and boxing. So he's very well versed in how to fight.
Badass.
And for the listeners out there, I got my first tap in a match with a younger, more powerful opponent on Saturday. I caught him in a choke that is called a paper cutter. And,
it works.
And he fucking tapped right out, and I was super excited. So, yes. Kudos to me. Okay.
Good for you. Good
Tapping
for you.
out a guy half your age. That's nothing to fucking frown about.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
more than half.
more than half my age.
You old bastard.
All right. So 6 months later, we meet Stu, who works at a sporting goods store while taking a side job as an Uber driver. He is forced to give a ride to his obnoxious boss, Richie Sandusky, who runs his father's store and also gives him the unwanted nickname Stuber. Stu is also investing in opening a spin class gym with his college friend Becca, who actually he is in love with. However, she's dating a superstar basketball player, and Stu isn't really pleased about that. He also needs to maintain his rating above 4 stars or he loses his Uber gig. So he's very, uptight about that. Typically, his rides do not go over well, as we see in the montage of less than stellar fares, people throwing up in his car, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile,
Beers on you.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, Vic has been obsessing over catching Tejo and avenging Morris. Captain Angie McHenry tells Vic to let it go now that the case against him is being bumped up to the feds. Vic later goes to get LASIK eye surgery before meeting up with his daughter, Nicole. She invites him to her art gallery opening later that night, which he promises to attend even though he can't see anything. Nicole installs the Uber app on his phone to help him out. Vic's informant Leon calls and tells Vic about a heroin drop with Tejo happening later that night. Vic attempts to drive to Koreatown, but since he can't see, he drives his car into a construction hole. And having no other choice, he uses the Uber app and shoot, who shows up for him but Stu? Vic rudely demands that Stu drive him to Koreatown immediately. So I know I jumped through a lot here, so we'll give it a second to breathe. But Stu making like that 18-point turn is so sneaky funny because Vic is literally like losing his mind while Stu is doing this. And the people are beeping and he's like,
worst driver ever.
Cracked me up. Des, what did you think of these scenes?
Yeah, well, I got a lot here because you went through a good bit of the movie. So we meet Stu and Richie here, and I love both characters. In fact, I love all the characters, but I love these two. And did you guys notice this first scene when Richie's waving Stu over? He's doing it with his middle finger. He's flipping Stu off with his finger.
Yes, I did see that.
He's such a dick, and I love it. And Stu reveals that Richie told everyone at the store that Stu lost his dick in the war, which is pretty fucking funny to me. And like you said, I love the montage of the different fairs he's taking, ending with him reading his 1-star review saying, drives like a little bitch and has a massive eyebrow that obstructed his vision. I thought that was fucking hilarious. I really hated Becca. There's no way this shallow, super average bowl of vanilla ice cream of a woman, one, is landing a huge NBA star, and two, she's just not to bag on the actress, but she's really just not that pretty for a role that you're trying to like really underline that she's this super hot chick. And like, she looked to me like she'd be lucky to have Stuber, honestly. So I really like the scene at the shooting range with Vic as well, because we're going to get the grouping of bullets without the glasses. Then we get the one shot right between the eyes when he puts the glasses on. So we see that he's like a crack shot. He's really good. He just needs the glasses, basically. And then he's going to start looking for the LASIK. And at first I was thinking Stu was a little bit of sucker for signing a contract to go into business with Becca just for all the wrong reasons. I'm like, he's doing this to like get, see if they can fall in love. It just seems stupid. But honestly, I started thinking this is probably a pretty good investment. And then Stu actually says as much later in the movie, and it comes in and we get a great payoff at the end of the movie with it. And we get a lot of that in this movie. And then we get some more really funny character moments with this Richie character, who I really loved. When Stu asked Richie for some more hours at work, and Richie says, it's really not an appropriate question to ask your boss at work. And then he says, do you think Becca would fuck me? I fucking literally laughed out. I laughed out loud. I enjoyed this character. It's over the top. Totally worked. And then this whole problem that I have with the LASIK surgery is that almost 100% of patients that get LASIK surgery have 20/20 vision immediately after the surgery. Like, this isn't what it's like. They give you those glasses to protect your eyes, to tell you to go home, don't watch TV, you might get a headache, but you can see perfectly. And most people, like I was, listening to some people talking about their LASIK surgery, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I went home and watched movies like after taking a half an hour nap." I love the scene with Vic and his daughter. We get the whole relationship explained in just a couple of minutes, like done really well. You feel, that he's an absent dad, and it really worked. Like, it was really fast character building for me. And the pictures on his phone, fucking hilarious. We see that this guy is just all about work. It's his whole life, and these are murder, crime scene pictures. I thought
Dead
Vic,
body on the stairs.
yeah, oh, so good with all the bullet holes. I thought Vic trying to drive blind was over the top stupid, but much like Richie, I liked it in this movie. It was fine. It was Mr. Magoo. It worked at first. And when Stu meets Vic, he says, "Let me guess, you want me to take you to all the Sarah Connors in the city?" Fucking phenomenal
Awesome
line. So
Awesome
not
line.
to go on and on, but it was a lot of ground to cover. So
Yeah.
Pat, what'd you think of the first quarter of the movie?
I have to agree. I didn't like Becca. Becca was, in my mind, very self-absorbed. She was a huge narcissist. She couldn't see how much Stu liked her or didn't want to. And maybe he just wasn't, I don't want to say aggressive, but Vic nailed it when he said he couldn't man up and tell her how he felt. And you have to agree. Stu was, I mean, these two were polar opposites. You've got Vic, the tough guy, nothing hurts him, and then you've got Stu, who is basically crying in the car while driving at certain points in time. It wasn't the best opposites and a foil that I've seen, but the characters were really well put together. The way they were designed themselves. They could have played better to each other, but the setup with Vic's daughter in the restaurant and her putting the Uber app on his phone to make it easy so we can get there, and he shows up and it's not even why he's there. It's not even for the show. She picks up on that, and you just like, okay, this is just a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a very tense relationship, unfortunately.
Yeah, you also made a point about Vic and Stu being polar opposites. I really liked their foil against each other. I thought that they were every bit as good as Kevin Hart and The Rock in Central Intelligence. I really liked the way they played off each other. But you also have to understand that Stu is a complete opposite from Becca. And that relationship just can't work because they're completely different people. And I don't really fault Becca for not being with Stu. They're wrong for each other, and she knows it. She wants something else that he can't give her. And I'm glad they don't wind up together. Spoiler.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you there.
All right, so let's move on. The two arrive at a warehouse where Leon is, but Vic finds that he's already dead. He takes Leon's phone, but he unknowingly leaves bloody footprints. From what he can see on the phone, Leon's last contact was somebody by the name of Amber Titties, but it's French and it's pronounced TTA or TTA? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Vic forces Stu to keep driving him, making Compton their next destination. Meanwhile, Stu gets a video call from Becca, who is pissed and drunk after seeing that her boyfriend has nude photos of other girls. She invites Stu to come over and comfort her, and he promises to be there after dealing with Vic. Stu brings Mick to a male strip club, and Vic makes Stu go inside with him. They meet Amber, who runs the place and is aggressively speaking to one of the dancers, Felix, for eating a sandwich when he has to look puff. Vic goes to talk to her about Leon, and she says that he was involved with a dealer named Amo Cortez. Stu talks to Felix about Becca, revealing that they had sex a while back, but they both act like it was no big deal. Felix encourages him to express his feelings to her. Becca then calls Stu again and says that her boyfriend called and sounded apologetic, so she's close to forgiving him, but still wants Stu to come over. However, Vic is not done with Stu and wants him to drive him to Long Beach to find ammo. Stu begrudgingly joins him, and Amber can then be seen calling to tell, I'm assuming, ammo about Stu and Vic. So, yeah, this is one of those things, too, where you're seeing just how the thing with Becca doesn't work. It's like, it's gross. You know, she's kind of using Stu, frankly.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No.
Des, what did you think about this?
So I kind of wish at this point of the movie they come up with another reason for Stu to have to continue to stay with Vic and drive him around. Like I think they could have wrote in a different reason than the eyesight thing. As I can't see joke was starting to get a little stale at this point. I wanted Vic to start taking control of the investigation with perfect eyesight because at the end of the movie, which unfortunately comes at like the final fucking curtain, he can see perfectly, and all of a sudden it's better action. So I wish they'd come up with a different reason for them to stay together. Club Sizzle, fucking phenomenal. And I especially love this quick friendship that Stu strikes up with a very buff Steve Howie playing Felix. I love this actor and I love him in this part. He's so great. He's so buff, he's so good looking, but he's so like cool and down to earth. And he's everything Dave Bautista isn't in this. He's everything Vic isn't in this. And they strike up this super fast friendship. This is gold. And it's funny that Vic thinks it's a strip joint for straight men. But again, you need to be completely blind not to notice the strippers were men. And it was getting a little old at this part. And I love Becca. Did I just see a dick the size of Simon Birch? That's hilarious.
As good as that was, I think the opening line from Vic, "This place smells like balls," was probably better.
So good.
Can't imagine why.
And then when Sue says to Vic, "You're a racist," and Vic says, and then fucking Stu says to Vic, "You're not white. You Puerto Rican? You Mexican? Libyan? Chilean? Chilean? You're not Chinese." And Vic says, "Oh, and I'm the racist one?" This is fucking gold. This is gold. I really like this. And then he says something else about like you look like if fucking every race on the planet fucked and had like a mutant mutt puppy or something. It was crazy. It was funny though. I was laughing out loud. Pat, what do you got?
These Stu, I don't know. It's weird. I have to agree. Seeing Vic being almost like an inept cop because he couldn't see was a downer for me. If he had gotten his eyesight back sooner, I agree with you. It would have been more interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, there were certain scenes that worked it great with it. When they went to get more ammo at outside the box, probably my favorite scenes in the entire movie. But that's getting too far ahead. Yeah. And I don't know. It was weird seeing Vic stumble when he goes and finds Leon, not realizing he's walking through the blood. But there's one thing that I do pick up, and I see it a lot from one movie to the next. You always get a hint. You always get some kind of a clue. When the camera focused on the blood on the floor, down low, with the footprint in it, I immediately said to myself, that's coming back in the movie. That's going to get a call back. Anytime on any movie or any show that you watch, anytime the camera focuses, like later in the movie when the camera focuses on the sriracha sauce logo on the wall, you had to know right then and there something with sriracha sauce was going to happen. You knew it. You had to know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved using the blind bit to set up set up the plot of the movie and to set up that he's being framed and he's not understanding this because he can't see. That was great. But
it took too long to get to a place that he was sighted again.
And then when they finally do give Stu another reason to have to stick around after the animal hospital, they still don't give fucking Vic his sight back. And at that point, I was like, all right, like Stu has to stay with you because now his family is in danger. And now this is why he's sticking around. So let's give Vic his sight back right now.
Right.
But they just kept fucking. And I thought Batista and this other actor had enough chemistry to pull off better jokes throughout the movie without having to lean on this blind bit going forward. So
Agreed.
Yeah, it was the inability to see was too much of a crutch. It worked for certain scenes, like at the vet clinic, when he couldn't see anybody who you couldn't see he was shooting at.
Right.
So he's got Stu throwing cans or he's telling Stu to take out the lights to make it an even field. And it's like, how the hell is he supposed to do that?
Yeah.
All right, keep it rolling.
All right, so Vic enters the house to interrogate Ammo and his buddies. He's enraged to find that they were smuggling drugs inside their dog, and he pulls the guy outside to arrest him. He puts him in Stu's Prius and alludes to Stu being his partner. Vic even gives Stu a small gun to sell it. That's the baby gun. Ammo quickly realizes Stu is just an Uber driver, and he attempts to escape by breaking through the window. Stu tries to stop him and accidentally shoots Ammo in the leg. Vic starts to pry info from Ammo, learning that a heroin drop is going down that very night, but Ammo passes out from shock before he can tell Vic where it's happening. Vic orders Stu to take him to a vet that he knows so that they can treat Ammo's leg. After Ammo wakes up, Vic tries once again to use brute force to get info out of him, but Stu, using his brain, opts for a different option, getting into Ammo's phone and threatening to post salacious rumors on his Twitter. Ammo spills that the drop is happening after midnight at a storage yard. Just then, a group of Tejo's goons enters, and a leader holds Stu at gunpoint. They try to negotiate a swap for Stu for Ammo, but it falls apart. Ammo ends up dead, and leaving the vet, Vic sends a text on the leader's phone to who he thinks is Tejo to make him think that Vic is dead. The text instead goes to McHenry, his boss, who's already at Nicole's art gallery. Of course, you know, they put the drugs in the dog, and I'm just as mad as Vic is. So, was very happy at the end of the movie when you know that the dog's okay. Des, what did you think?
Yeah, so on the drive to the barrio, we're going to get some exposition from Vic about his dad and, being left in the desert and, made him a man. And Stu is going to tell him, you don't have to abuse your children to make them men and, good people. And I liked all this exposition. I thought it was really good. But, at this point, Vic starts to kind of label Stu as not being a real man in his eyes, which is a nice setup for their upcoming fight in the hardware store. There's a lot of good setups in this movie, and they, for the most part, pay off. And they also, at the same time, are good for the character development of the movie. So it was kind of like a win-win situation. The director did a nice job with it. I like both the scenes in the house where Vic kicks ass on that dog abusing asshole. And also Stuber playing bad cop in the car. I thought it was fucking great. I'm a lone wolf and all the shit he's saying. It's hilarious. And, he ultimately shoots the guy in the leg. And this is where he crosses the line from just being an Uber driver to being almost like a anointed deputy at this point. Vic's basically like, you got a gun, you're on the job, fucking do what you got to do. Because apparently in this universe, Vic is like the law, right? Like he's like the sheriff. Whatever he does is fine. I love the whole animal hospital scene, from this over-the-top gunfight to Stuber. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Stuber being covered in brain matter and having a complete meltdown in the parking lot when he's like, and then they tell me, you've got to meditate. I do meditate. I was laughing because that's me. That's me, man. Like 100%.
As soon as he yelled out, I do meditate, I immediately said to myself, Des likes that scene. I know he does, because Des meditates. But I hate to burst your bubble. He didn't have brains in his hair. He had dog food in his hair.
Oh, was that dog food?
He was throwing cans of dog food at the lights.
Oh,
he threw one at the guy that was holding the shotgun, and he basically shot it out of the air. But that was one of my two favorite scenes. Watching, I've got one bullet left. I've got one can left. We'll make it count.
So good.
And he throws the ball. I missed. And then the guy steps on the cat's tail. And
so good.
I laughed before Vic even took the shot. As soon as he stepped on that cat's tail, I burst out laughing because I knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
good.
I loved how they used the music that the vet is listening to
Oh,
outside walking the dogs for the whole shootout. Like that was perfect. And
And in slow motion.
unfortunately, yeah. And unfortunately, spoiler alert, the vet doesn't make it in the long run, which is a bummer,
right.
but um he was a nice little side character.
Yeah. I also
Definitely.
like the early reveal that the captain is the one getting the text and that she's a dirty cop. I thought it was nice introducing it this early in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I allude to this later on, but she kind of reminded me of like the Iceman in fucking 48 Hours. Only I think we had to wait like 2 movies for that reveal, but I don't remember exactly how long it
No,
took for him.
Iceman was at the end of the first one.
It was at the end. Okay, but they
Yes, it
waited till
was.
the very, very end to give you
Yeah.
that. And this kind of it was fun getting it so early because when he is going to call it in later in the movie, we know exactly what's
What's
going
happening.
on. Yeah. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, there's no question. And it's
Right.
funny too. I'm trying to remember. Does she get the phone call from the dead guy's phone before or after you see her with the veterinarian?
Before.
So okay, so she's with Tejo before she sees the vet because
Yes.
she's
Yes.
tracking Vic. Well,
Yes.
at that point, the moment you saw her in the scene with Vic, you had to know Vic was. I mean, not Vic, the vet. You had to know the vet was done.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Keep it
That's
rolling.
fair.
All right. So the two make it to Nicole's art show, and Vic makes a fool of himself by bumping into things and not even noticing Nicole's art. She meets Stu, and he shares his whole day dealing with her dad. Vic asks Nicole for the keys to their house for his storage unit, which she realizes is the only reason he showed up. She tells him off for being absent in her life and caring more about his job than the people in his own life. Vic leaves her with a gun for protection. Stu and Vic leave, and Vic throws a rock through a nearby window to bring the cops there, but also because he's mad. They go to Stu's sporting goods store to get some guns. Vic grabs more than he said he would, and Stu puts his foot down and calls Vic out for how he acts, telling him that he's scared of showing his emotions and hides behind his masculinity, and mentions that he's a terrible dad to Nicole. This confrontation explodes into an all-out sporting goods battle that is only interrupted when Richie, the boss, shows up and aims a crossbow at them. He makes fun of Stu again, but having found his voice, Stu tells him what he thinks of him too and quits. As he is leaving, Richie tries to convince him to stay because he considers Stu his best and only friend. And Stu tries to say one nice thing to Richie before leaving for good. And you feel bad for Richie because it's like that's how you treat your friend. Like, dude, you don't know how to have a friend, you know?
I didn't like Richie up until that point as a person. I
Now
mean, the
you feel bad
character
for
was,
him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he's totally self conscious and vain. He's afraid, and this brings up the fact that he feels like he's losing his hair. Reminds me of the line when Stu picks him up in the beginning of the movie. And they're going to Bosley Hair Restoration. No, I'm not going there. I'm doing a girl in there. Is her name Propecia?
That's so good.
I almost peed. I laughed
good.
so hard because a lot of the things that Stu said were very quiet and not actually meant to be heard by the person they were being directed to.
Yeah.
So when he let out Propecia, I was like, "Oh, that was beautiful." But the entire scene in the sporting goods store was probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. These two are going at it when when Stu swings the two-wheel little bicycle with training wheels like a club and he nails Vic in the head. Vic goes flying. He gets up and throws the tricycle at Stu as Stu's leaving, knocks him down. I'm like, oh my God, this was hysterical. Best scene in the movie. Stu is up on the top of the rack, hanging onto a cable, and he tries to swing down and kick Vic, and Vic just steps to the side. Stu goes crashing into the cabinets and the walls, followed by the box of fishing lures stuck to Vic's face.
I loved it.
Best scene in the entire movie was the entire scene from in that sporting goods store. I thought I couldn't stop laughing. Every time I turned around, I was laughing about something in it.
Yeah. So when they go to the art exhibit, this is a part of the movie I didn't really enjoy because Vic is totally self-absorbed. He really is not interested in supporting his daughter's art show at all. And he's only heading over there to possibly catch one of Tejo's men. He wants to give her a gun. I mean, it's all about the case. It's all, he's forced there. And he knows there's a good possibility he's going to ruin this event. And when he gets there, he treats her like fucking shit. He does not give a shit about her show. He makes not even an effort to pretend like he cares about her show. He is showing zero interest in her art to the point where he's complimenting another artist's art. And she's like, I don't even paint. I'm a fucking sculptor person. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck. I use the bathroom. So I didn't like this character trait for Vic. And he really didn't have like a big redemption in the end. I mean, yeah, he's going to give fucking Stu a hug and whatever. But as far as his daughter, there's no redemption there at all. I mean, in that hospital room at the end, not to jump ahead, he says, I'll try to be better. And she goes, well, we'll both try to be better. And, I wanted him to be like, no, it's not you. You're fine. This is me. But he's going to let her take responsibility for him being a fucking shitty dad. And as somebody with a shitty dad, I didn't appreciate it. The fucking scene in Vic's storage unit, it's pretty funny. Stu finds the vacation picture with the boat. Would you hijack this family? When you smile, you're ugly. Yeah, you're ugly when you don't smile. You're just ugly. Pretty funny.
Yeah, he was jabbing Vic as much as he could. With these two people you took prisoner, you kidnapped too?
Yeah, it was fucking funny. And like Pat said, the sporting goods scene is definitely one of the best scenes in the entire movie. It's revealed that Richie secretly, considers Stu his best friend. And like DeLynn said, that's sad. But what is great about this scene is that this is where not only does Stu get Vic's respect, but Stu gets respect for himself. And this is a big moment in the movie. It really changes this character of Stu. So it's important, and I really enjoyed it.
I loved it when they were lying next to each other, and Sue's, you got to have a lot of stamina to fight. Yeah, you hung in there longer than I thought you would.
It was great.
The banter during this and that entire scene was so funny. Just watching Vic run into shit because he can't see where he's going, and Stu taking full advantage of the fact that he can beat on him and he doesn't know where he is.
I suppose. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Which is what makes the fight believable, because Vic is.
That's
blind.
it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like you can't believe that if a fight between these two happened, if he could see, he literally would just sit on Stu and it would be over.
Oh, absolutely.
So there you go. Then you can't say that he should have got his sight back earlier in the movie, or this scene can't take place. So it's a double-edged sword.
There's a method to the madness that you have to let take place.
There is.
So the storyline could. But when Stu started throwing the baseball bats at him, hitting him everywhere, one bat after the other, I was just like, oh my God, this is hysterical.
Okay.
I also like as they're leaving the sporting goods store and Vic is knocking stuff off the shelf as they go.
Yeah. So
just
good.
like a final little fuck you on the
And
way
Richie's
out.
and Richie being Richie. Yeah, I'll pick that up.
I'll take care of it, Stuber. Okay. All right.
His name is Stu.
Oh, that's right. That's right. All right.
Yeah.
So buckle in. We're going to the end of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stu drives Vic to the storage yard and encourages Vic to overcome his inability to ask for help. And Vic calls McHenry for backup, so we know how that's going to go. As Stu drives away, he calls Becca and tells her his feelings, and it goes very awkwardly. She still wants him to come over, but he says he can't, and he needs some time to think about things. McHenry shows up and reveals herself as the dirty cop to Vic. It turns out that she and Tejo killed Leon and orchestrated the whole thing to get Vic framed for murder and off of their tail. She shoots Vic once, but before she can kill him, Stu drives his car into her, silent but deadly.
Silent but deadly.
Tejo and his goons spot them and begin to shoot and give chase. As they run, Vic realizes his sight has returned and he shoots at their pursuers. Unfortunately, Stu's electric car has run out of battery and Tejo catches up and slams his car into theirs, knocking it down a hill, and forces the guys to run into a sriracha factory. It just gets more ridiculous as we go.
I love it.
Hiding in a van with the employees, Stu tells everyone to call an Uber. They burst out of the factory in the van only to hit a parked boat. The employees scatter. Tejo holds Vic and Stu at gunpoints when all the Ubers show up, and Vic pretends they're all cop cars until one of the drivers blows the facade and they all drive away. And Tejo begins to shoot. Vic and Tejo fight, with Tejo getting the upper hand. Nicole shows up after getting Vic's location off the Uber app and shoots Tejo a couple of times before he gets a hold of the gun and attempts to shoot Nicole while Vic is down. Stu takes the bullet for Nicole, and Vic rages out by trying to strangle Tejo before Nicole stops him as the real cops show up to arrest Tejo. So I will pause here before we get right into the actual prologue, because this is a huge scene, and it's so ridiculous. Everything, it gets more ridiculous. Like the car blows up, the sriracha factory, the all the Ubers showing up. It's so stupid and so funny. Des, what did you think?
It's a great final act, you know. I mean, they're gonna throw it at you almost like Big Trouble in Little China. Like, this is satire. It's fucking great. It
so doesn't take itself seriously at all.
Yeah, no. And Pat, I'm curious to see if you can see this kind of deal. So at this point, this whole scene between Vic and his captain at the salvage yard, where she's going to run down the plot of the movie for us as the viewers, and through flashback scenes, and for Vic. So he understands, you know, she's double crossed him. She's put him on basically a wild goose chase to show up in different locations to be seen by cameras and leave evidence everywhere. Right. Little to be known that she's building a case against him to be the fall guy. This reminded me a lot of Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, right?
Yep.
And I was like, I mean, not nearly as good as Shooter. And if you've never seen Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, go see it. But it's the basic concept. And I thought it was really clever in a movie that's such a fart joke movie, just, funny satire, crazy comedy. But it was a pretty deep plot. I mean, it was given to me in a Cracker Jack box, really easy to consume. It wasn't complicated, but it was a microcosm of Shooter. And I thought that was really cool. I love that Stuber was sharp enough to deduce that one cop car is not a fucking cavalry, and it was super fishy. And now at this point, you're probably thinking Stu wouldn't want to go back to help. He's been freed finally. His obligation is more than been fulfilled to Vic. But I think the director did a good enough job of selling me on this budding friendship between Vic and Stu that not only did I not 100% believe that he would go back, but I was feeling like he was struggling leaving Vic there. When Vic was like, it's okay, the cavalry's coming, you can go to Becca. Like, I actually felt the struggle inside of Stuber to leave him there. Like, it almost felt like he had found a purpose in life. Like, he wanted to see this through, and I can understand it. The car chase scene, it was set to fucking come sail away. Dude, it was freaking genius. And this propane tank scene.
The propane tank, when it goes through the windshield and hits the guy's face. Oh my God.
Best
oh my
scene.
God.
And
it's just like red velvet cake. It just...
And it's a callback to the fucking can of dog food at the animal hospital. They finally get it right because they're partners and they've been working together. And I love it. It's another amazing callback that just works.
And the reference to Jaws is friggin' hysterical.
You mean just like in Jaws?
Like Vic, you mean like in Jaws? Exactly like in Jaws.
So good.
It was awesome. And what's great is they didn't skimp on the effect. That can bounces, goes through that windshield, and crushes that guy's face.
Totally.
Which is exactly what should have happened if that actually happened in real life.
And then the car flips up this side down and just completely explodes. And then Stu goes, he was a bad man. He was a bad man.
He
probably had it coming.
Exactly.
I'm a good guy.
And Delin, you answered the question that I've had since I watched the movie 3 times. How the hell did Nicole find her way there? The first time I watched this movie, the moment she showed up, all I could say is, how the fuck did she find them?
Uber app. Because she had installed her Uber app on his phone. So she opened up the app and could see where he was.
It
It's
didn't
actually a
don't.
pretty tight script when you
Yeah.
try to break it down. So the scene in the sriracha processing factory where Stu thinks he's calling the cops, but he's talking over the loudspeaker. It's fucking hilarious. And Tajo makes this face under the mask that is he's laughing to himself because
He's
it's
laughing his
fucking
ass off.
funny.
Oh, as soon as Stu grabbed that red phone, you knew I'll call for help. I'm looking at the red phone going,
That don't
that's
go
not
outside.
going to get him help. He's not getting help with that phone. I knew it. And of course, he's every shit, fuck. And it's all coming through. And Tejo was laughing his ass off the whole time. It's friggin' awesome.
It's really good.
And of course, Batista gets the face full of sriracha, which is awesome.
Oh yeah,
I'm blind again.
Blind again.
I was in tears. That was so good.
So when Stu throws the sriracha sauce at Tejo, it's fucking funny, but it's also cool because he doesn't blind him at first. But again, we're gonna get a callback. It works, and it's really good. Everything pays off in this movie 1,000,000 times in a row.
Yeah.
So I did hate that neither Vic's daughter or Stu took a shot at Tasia while he was kicking Vic's ass. Like I'm screaming, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. But she never does. But all was right in the world when the director chose to have Stuber take the shot to save Vic's daughter, because that could have very easily gone the other way. And they could have tried to kill the puppy just to give the movie a little bit of that melancholy, like real feel. I'm glad they didn't fucking do it. I'm glad they just stayed satire, comedy, fun, slow motion. He takes the bullet, and this is going to cement his friendship with Vic forever, regardless of what happens with the daughter. And I'm still not seeing this relationship. It wasn't foreshadowed at all.
No,
I never saw it coming. So it's really great, the ending, what we get. And let's just talk about it. So I'll just wrap up my thoughts. As for the end of the movie, it's a total success for me. And I'll tell you why. We get the crying hug between Batista and Stu. So Batista's grown a little bit. We see Vic has kept the dog and is having Chinese food with him. I was so happy to see the dog got a bad home.
Me too.
But not as bad as the home he was in. We see Stu's investment pays off with Becca, but he doesn't wind up with her. They're just business partners. And she's still using the NBA star's picture for a promo, but it's this guy's a fucking prick. If you got a boyfriend like this, fuck him. Let's get her. Oh yeah,
she used her anger on that cycle. She was just throwing it at all, and you could see quickly if you're looking at the face of the other women, you can see the anger in their faces as the camera's panning away from them, and you can just see, like you said, Delaney.
It's a room full of jilted women, and I fucking love it. It's hilarious. It's fucking hilarious.
And it's being run by a woman who's been jilted. It was perfect.
And finally, Stu finds true love with Vic's daughter and becomes an actual family member to Vic. And he needs Stu in his life. And Stu obviously needed Vic in his life because they both, grew a lot from just meeting each other, which I thought was really cool. It's an over-the-top, feel-good ending, but it worked perfectly for this movie in particular. So, yeah, I loved it. Pat, talk about the last 15 scenes.
This is your night in the desert.
Yeah, so good. So good.
And the look on Vic's face from the moment Stu comes to the door was just blank shock. And then just again, and Stu whispers, "This is your night in the desert."
Oh, I laughed.
And the look on Vic's daughter's face, she knew exactly what he was talking about. It was, "You'll be okay, buddy." As they walk him inside, he's just a walking zombie. Oh, it was so funny. And as you're talking about how nobody shot Tejo, Stu didn't, Nicole didn't. I knew. A lot of times you watch enough movies, you can foresee things that are going to happen. Like when they saw the bloody footprint, you knew that was going to come into play. The camera focused on the sign of the sriracha sauce. You knew that was going to come into play. And when Stu had the gun and Vic's yelling at him, shoot him, and he shoots one shot into the air, the first thought that comes to my mind, he's not going to have any bullets
Yeah.
when
Right.
he goes to
I thought the
shoot
same thing.
Vic. Exactly. As soon as he pulled one shot, and I'm like, he's not going to have any bullets to shoot him. And he didn't. And I was like, okay, justified. Now,
I love
the end.
I love that Tejo knocks fucking Stuber out with the gun instead of shooting him. He just rips the gun off his head.
He catches the gun that's thrown at him from Stu.
Yeah.
He beats Vic with it and then throws it
whips
back
it.
and hits Stu. But the best part of that is the way Stu went down. Stiff as a board, flat out down on his feet.
Yeah, like
That
Leon
was
Spinks
just-
against Mike Tyson.
Exactly. But still, that's still not the best scene for Stu falling. Stu fainting in the veterinarian's office
Yeah, it was
and
pretty
watching the poor bastard that's holding him, trying to keep him up as Stu starts to fall to the floor. Oh man! In the beginning, I'm thinking to myself, Stu is just a big panty waste, but he becomes a lunatic halfway through this movie, ready to kill Vic, and it was funnier. This is, again, it's one of those movies that got funnier for me every time I watched it. And I watched it 3 times in the last day and a half, and I always found something more that made me laugh out loud.
That was funny. All right, so that's it. I think we have broken down Stuber properly.
All right.
Let's head over to the recasting couch and see what we can do about recasting this movie. So, I would replace Kumail Nanjiani with Kevin Hart, and I'd replace Dave Bautista with The Rock, and I'd replace this movie with Central Intelligence.
Oh my gosh.
I'm joking. No, seriously, I would replace the character of Richie with one Mark Wahlberg. I think he would have been great as Richie.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's what I got.
I can see that.
I can work with that.
What do you got?
So I would replace Kumal with Donald Glover, and he was the guy that played young Lando Calrissian, and he was also on Community. And I just think that he's a pretty good actor. I think he could have pulled this off, and I would have liked it.
He's not funny.
Have you ever seen Community? Have you ever seen Community?
Yeah.
Then shut up. You don't know. He is funny.
I've seen every season like 3
Of
times.
Community? You don't even know what it is. What is it?
Yeah, it's a fucking show about a family that
No.
has one
No.
son that's homosexual, and
No.
then oh no, that's Soap. Sorry.
I did not say Robert Guillaume. I said
What, did you
Donald
just
Glover.
step out of the TARDIS? What the hell's wrong with you?
Pat, what do you got?
I'm going to go with something that could probably be obvious. I'm going to replace Dave Bautista with Douche Lundgren. You picked up on that, right? Okay, Des did. Des got it immediately.
That's fucking classic.
Well, don't you mean who's that? Who's that?
That's the name that Stu called Vic when he was trying to get away from Vic to go see Becca.
Right.
Let me drop off Douche Lundgren, and I'll be there right away.
Right.
So I had to go with that name because I knew somebody was going to pick up on it.
That's
Des
funny.
got it right away.
That's fucking hilarious.
Douche
right.
Lundgren. That's
Nice,
good.
nice. I don't see Dolph Lundgren in that scene, but nicely done. I like.
Yeah,
what
but
you did
Douche
there.
Lundgren I can.
Absolutely. All right, let's do some final thoughts. We'll hit a rewatch score on this, and we will place it on the list. So for me, this movie, it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of laughs. I enjoyed the chemistry between Stuber and Vic. Was this an amazing movie? No. But for me, it's definitely an above average action comedy. I mean, it's not Beverly Hills Cop. It's not fucking Lethal Weapon. It's nothing like that. But my rewatch score for this is 3.72. 3.72. It's above average. That's a little lower than what I had written down, but it kind of drags a little bit, the movie. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah, there were certain things that did take forever. to
And
get
did
through.
not pass my phone test.
Yeah, me neither. And that's what hurt
Didn't
the movie.
pass
That's
my
what
solitaire
kept it-
test.
That's what kept it from, and that's what kept it from getting into the 4s for me. It was funny enough to be a 4-1, but the pacing was a little bit off. So, Belinda, what do you got?
So it's funny. there's some funny parts. There's some good jokes. Everybody is serviceable. It's a decent story. I didn't hate it, but like I said, it didn't pass my phone test. I definitely caught myself looking at my phone a couple of times. And, but if you're just looking for a fun buddy comedy, stupid movie to, and have on a Sunday afternoon, it's fine. I gave it a 2.75.
Oh shit. Yeah, I paused it and took my shirt off.
I guess that's
That's disgusting.
That's something I'm not going to even go into.
You don't want to know,
even
Pat.
want to know. Yeah,
You
no,
don't
I
wanna
don't
know.
think I do. I think I know him well enough to know I don't want to know.
Mhm.
Pat, what do you got?
This movie could have been funnier if, like you had said, if Vic got his eyesight back sooner. He seemed very inept because he couldn't see. So there was a lot of stumbling, a lot of bumbling. His anger was awesome. I loved Vic being angry. He was a scream against Stu's terrified. Do you have a blanket in the trunk I can get you? There were a lot of great lines. I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Nice. I'll tell you what separates this from a movie like Central Intelligence is that Dave Bautista is a phenomenal character actor, but he's not a leading man. Like, he didn't hold the screen like The Rock did. And I actually think that Dave Bautista is a better actor than The Rock. He just doesn't have the charisma to carry the movie 100%.
I agree with you. Everything that we've seen out of him from Guardians of the Galaxy, he's not the lead.
No.
He was in Riddick with, what's his name? Des hates him.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, yes. He played a hard ass in that movie, and he was very good in that role. Again, not a leading man, but still very charismatic.
Yep. Yeah, and that's not a knock on Batista. Good actors, not leading man.
At all.
Lynn, go ahead.
All right, so this brings us in at number 43 with 3.4066667.
I'm sorry, what number was it?
43.
Okay, so it's a mid-pack. It's a mid-packer.
Yeah, it's a mid-pack towards the bottom.
Okay, so where does that put it?
Like what's above it? So Kingpin is right above it, and The Last Deal is right below it.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know The Last Deal, but Kingpin is definitely a bit funnier.
And Kingpin is above it. So
I disagree. This is I would watch this 1,000 times.
I don't know. I keep seeing Woody Harrelson with that fake hand at the Amish Center, nailing his hand to the board as he's looking at the girl, pulling it off and hitting himself with the board. I don't know.
Okay, we're not re-reviewing Kingpin now. Okay, so there you go. That's it's placed in a very strange place.
No, I think it is placed correctly because I'm looking at the movies all around it, and it's placed correctly.
I don't think The Last Deal is placed correctly. I think it's not that I have a problem with The Last Deal, but I mean, again, you're putting an indie movie up against fucking movies with $50 billion.
Okay, well, so say we remove
budgets.
The Last Deal and don't even pretend it's not even on the list. It's right above Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So, and The Mist is right below it. Air Force One is right below it. And right above it is Kingpin, U571, Cabin in the Woods, and The Craft. So,
okay, all right, it's fine.
It seems like it's in the right place for me.
It's right. It sounds right.
Yeah, and again, no slight on The Last Deal. It was a great movie, unbelievable indie movie. Just again, putting up a movie with a budget like that against budgets like this, it can be a little tricky.
It's not fair.
Which is why we didn't want to do an indie movie, but the director and writer was gracious enough to come on the show. So if you'd like to hear some huge insight on The Last Deal, go listen to that episode. It was great. Jonathan Salemi, writer, director, came on and broke that movie down for us. And we thought it was so good that we actually said, you know what, we're going to put it up against all these Hollywood blockbusters. And it actually did quite well. So there you go.
Yeah, it held its own.
Absolutely did.
Because I mean, here's the thing: I would review. In a heartbeat, I would review Clerks, and Clerks was as indie as it gets, and I would put Clerks on our list. So if you're going to
definitely.
review something like Clerks, you can review something like The Last
Yeah.
Deal too.
And honestly, I've seen what Kevin Smith did with a huge budget, and it wasn't any
as good as
better
Clerks.
than it wasn't as good as Clerks. And I have a feeling if you gave Jonathan Salemi the budget of a big Hollywood producer and writer, he could probably give you something like Boondock Saints, like
Yeah,
that
I agree.
caliber of movie. I think that's kind of in his wheelhouse.
Yes.
So if you're listening, Jonathan, kudos to you, brother. Okay. We will be back next week with Mikki and Tony 2.0, where we will be discussing Dusk Till Dawn, a movie I've never seen, vampire / serial killer movie. I don't know,
Entertaining
something like
movie.
that, from what
Yeah,
I
it's a
understand.
tale of two movies with that one. It's literally two different movies in the same movie. It's very
Yeah,
strange,
never
but
seen
very
it.
cool.
And I can't remember George Clooney.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very,
Yeah.
very, very good in this movie. I thought he was an awesome character.
Yeah.
And Tarantino helped
Is in
write
it.
the movie,
Mhm.
correct? And he
Tarantino
helped
was
write
in it, but
He
he's a.
acts in it. I don't know if he wrote it, but
Yeah, I
we'll have
think
to
he's got a-
check.
Yeah,
I think
I'll-
it is
I'll-
one of his.
I'll tell you what, tune in next week and I'll have all the answers for you.
That's a hell of an idea.
And on our sister podcast, Breaking Vinyl, we will be discussing Foreigner's debut album, Foreigner. So there you go. So until next time, I just have one question for you. Why am I sweating so much lately? See you later.
Becca wants to.